The subjunctive mood in Latin is used for actions that are either not true, unreal, of a general circumstance, hypothetical, possible but not quite real, or hoped for, but may or may not come true. To make things easier, Latin utilizes the subjunctive in only very specific and easily classifiable uses. For example, the result of an action will use the subjunctive mood, as does the purpose. Since the subjunctive mood is different from the indicative mood, the factual mood that everyone always learns first, the conjugation of verbs into the subjunctive mood will be different. This video covers the conjugation of verbs in the present active tense of the subjunctive. First, remember that verbs are divided into really five, main groups called conjugations, and we identify these conjugations by the ending of the present infinitive. First conjugation verbs end in an are, ar, seconds in a long ere, er, thirds in a short ere, er, and fourths in a long ire, ir. It's handy that the order is alphabetical, and you just have to remember that the long E comes before the short E. And this vowel is typically kept when you conjugate a present indicative. So the present third-person singular for amare is amat, for habere is habet, for audire is audet. And there's also a group called third IO conjugation verbs, whose infinitive ends in an era, short ere, that's what makes them third, but they may have many characteristics of fourth conjugation verbs, so more on them later. The present subjunctive is formed by changing the vowel characteristic of the conjugation, though. The A in the first conjugation changes to an E. The long E in seconds changes to a EA, and it makes sense that the E is kept, seeing how it's long to begin with. The short E in thirds changes to just an A. And again, this makes sense, since the E is short, unlike the E in the second conjugation. And the long I in fourths changes to an IA. Again, like the second conjugation, which keeps the long vowel before the A. Third IO verbs go like fourths and have an IA in the present subjunctive. That's a lot of technical stuff to remember, but never fear. There are always mnemonics out there to help you remember these vowel changes. This is the one that I grew up with. We fear a liar. But I've also heard Wendy wears a giant diaper, and this one gets vowels for third IOs in, but I'm not a big fan of the extra vowels, though, in this sentence. How about the bread was Friar's, since there's a nice bakery staffed by friars just up the road from me? I'm sure you can make your own mnemonic if you are so inclined. So let's see this vowel change in action. So for a first conjugation verb like amo, amara, we take the present stem, which is the second principal part without the re, then we change the vowel. Amo is first conjugation, so the stem is going to end in an E, not an A. And notice we do this for all 6 forms of the verb, including the first person singular. And then we add our personal endings, the est, mus, tis, unt. And so there we have it. Amem, ames, amet, amemus, ametis, ament. And since the subjunctive is translated in so many different ways, according to how it's actually used in the sentence, I am not going to give you the translations of this word. Plus, by now you should know that the ending identifies the subject of the verb. For a second conjugation verb like moneo, moneire, we do the same. The present stem, change the vowel, and add the personal endings. Moneam, moneas, moneat, moneamus, moneatis, moneant. Thirds go likewise. Wiwa, wiwere, and the present stem is wiwa, but we change the E to an A, add the endings, and we have wiwam, wiwas, wiwat, wiwamus, wiwatis, wiwant. And fourths, audio, audire, and the present stem is audi, but we change the I to an IA, add the endings, and we have audiam, audias, audiat, audiamus, audiatis, audiant. And as I said earlier, third IO verbs like capio, capere go like fourth conjugation verbs. Capiam, capias, capiat, capiamus, capiatis, capiant. There are a few irregulars in the present subjunctive only. And really, what would life be without irregulars? Boring, that's right. But keep in mind that these irregulars are only irregular in the present subjunctive. They are completely regular in other tenses of the subjunctive mood. So first and most importantly is sum esse. Its subjunctive is sim, sis, sit, simus, situs, sint. Compounds of sum also go likewise. So you have possim, possis, possit, possimus, possitis, possint, and adsim, assis, assit, adsimus, adsitus, adsint. We're going to keep the same theme with the I for other irregular verbs, like wolo, welle, to want, which is wellim, wellis, wellit, wellimus, wellitus, wellint, in the present subjunctive. Nolo nola, to not want, is nolim, nolis, nolit, nolimus, nolitus, nolint. And malo mala, to prefer, or really to want more, is malim, malis, malit, malimus, malitus, malint. And one more. The verb eo ir, to go, is technically a fourth conjugation verb. Its second principal part doesn't just end in, it is ir. But it also has many traits of second conjugation verbs. So its first principal part doesn't just end in, it is eo. And so its present subjunctive follows the second conjugation pattern. Eam, eas, eat, not eat, by the way. I've heard that way too many times. It's eat. Eamus, eatis, eant. You see present subjunctives used as main clause subjunctives like the Jussive all the time. So Catullus wrote this one to his girlfriend, whom he had nicknamed Lesbia. Vivamus, me lesbia, atqua memus. Let us live, my Lesbia, and let us love. And Dido says this in the Aeneid, Moriemur renultae, sed moriamur. We will die unavenged, but let us die. Moriamur is the present subjunctive. Notice the IA. Before we stop, I wanted to bring up the tense matrix, too, and how this relates to the present subjunctive. The tense matrix, remember, is how we should think about tenses in Latin. So Latin tenses have time, when it happened, and aspect, how the action flows. And the subjunctive has only present and past times, continual, or you can think of this as incomplete, and completed aspects. So the Latin subjunctive consists of only 4 tenses. The present subjunctive lies here, present time continual. Let's make a couple of slight modifications to this chart, though. For the present and past times, let's make this the tense of the main verb. And instead of continual and completed aspects, let's change it to same time and time before. So here you go. From this chart, you can see that the present subjunctive is used only in sentences where the main verb is in the present, or future, I suppose, tense. And this present subjunctive actually illustrates an action happening at the same time as the main verb. Confusing, I know, but very important too. So let me illustrate this with an example. In English, you could have an indirect question like, I know what you are doing. In Latin, that is scio quid facias. Scio is our present indicative main verb, and facias is our present subjunctive. By using the present subjunctive for facias, we're showing that the doing and knowing are happening at the same time, contemporaneously. If we changed our doing to have done, we would change facias from the present subjunctive to the perfect, feceris. I know what you have done. And now the have done happened before the knowing. This last bit is tough, but it's part of a larger discussion on sequence of tenses in the Latin subjunctive. Namely that the present subjunctive shows actions happening at the same time as the main verb.